This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. Today we have Mr. Preston Schmidli from Good Vibe Squad and Better Agency in the house. Mr. Houck.
Yo.
What's going on, man? I mean, you look civil. Like you look like you might have gone to church or something over the weekend. You got the beard trimmed. You have product in it.
There's actually, so believe it or not, there's no product in it right now, but no, I did have a wedding, so I had to get my hair cut. You know, I did trim it up a little bit. I was in the wedding, so it wasn't just like I was a guest. I was actually going to be photographed, you know, so you have to, sometimes you have to step out of the COVID bunker and make yourself presentable.
I like how he says you look civil, like you didn't before.
He did not look civil before at all.
I don't know. I don't agree with you, but that, you know,
if I owned a convenience store and at 11:30 at night, you came in with that hoodie, the beard, and the unkempt hair that I saw the last time we recorded, I'm not even going to ask any questions. I'm pulling the 7-Eleven special out from under the counter, and I'm opening your chest cavity with it. So that's the way it is.
I would never be in a convenience store at 11:30. I would be asleep.
Was Kyle looking like Tom Hanks in Castaway, or what was it?
Yes, close.
You know what, that's a great idea. What I should have done, I should have just kept my mouth shut and sent him a volleyball for Christmas.
Dude, I've seen, they sell those. They sell the Wilson with the handprint on them. I've seen them in like Dick's Sporting Goods before.
Oh, it wouldn't have had a handprint.
Whatever.
It's a build your own kit, Kyle. You got to make your own handprint.
There you go. Well, listen, Preston, I mean, I'm sure that the majority of the people listening to this know who you are, but why don't you give them a quick rundown about kind of your experience and where you're at today and what's going on. And then I want to dive in and start talking about a lot of the stuff you guys have going on.
Yeah, I'll keep it, I'll keep it shallow because the experience goes back. It's an interesting story, but I'll try to just simplify it. So, I've been in the insurance game. I started selling insurance illegally when I was 12. I got my license at 18. Family business, by the way. That wasn't just child labor. I mean, it was child labor, but it was willing. Didn't do well in the school system, so I had to apply myself somewhere. So I did that. I started my first agency at 19. I've had a few agencies in my 20s. I was also the regional manager of a life insurance company, sold a few thousand policies there. It's interesting. I've been able to manage a lot of the spectrum, from being a captive agency owner to an independent agency owner to a regional manager of a life insurance company, which ironically, when I did that was in between captive and part of my captive journey and being independent. The first time I did captive, life insurance was my weakness. And then I had to get my teeth kicked by learning that the hard way and door knocking, selling life insurance that way. And then I started after working like 120 hours a week. I got kind of burnt out on that. The recruiting model on that was just ridiculous. And so I started my captive agency again. And now life insurance was no longer my weakness, it was my strong suit. And then eventually, there's been a lot of volatility in the captive side of the world. And so I think it was about 4 years ago, I ended up converting to going independent. That in itself was quite a turbulent transition for me. But being independent has been quite liberating. And that that transition in the journey really led me, because I had already been doing marketing for my captive agency. And so when we hit a really hard streak there during the transition from captive to independent, and this part of my story, David, it was like we were literally selling plasma twice a week to get gas money to go to the food bank to be able to put food on the table for the kid. And one day I came home to a notice from the power company, and it said, you got 48 hours to pay us. I think it was like $690, or, power's out. So we decided to take the skill set that we'd been learning for our captive agency. And we were like, I didn't, because of the contracts and everything during the transition independent, I couldn't sell insurance. So I didn't have a way to generate revenue. I had to leverage my marketing skills and just kind of roll the dice. And so I sent out a cold email to 4,800 real estate agents. One of them ended up hiring me for $750. And he literally paid me 2 hours before the power cut out, and something in my brain clicked. I was like, this is the direction my life is going. I mean, I'm still obviously doing insurance. I've been knee deep in that, but that took me on a journey to become the best marketer I could be, to be the best automation specialist I can be. And that in conjunction with a few other things, back then I remember there were things I wanted in the technology world and I'd spoken with CTOs of AMS companies and automation companies and stuff like that. And it was really surprising to me, because in the marketing world, the world's your oyster. Whatever you want, there's people that, because they realize if they could be the one to create that, then they're just printing money on that idea, right? And it was so abstract, because in the insurance world, it was the antonym of that. It was like a good old boys club. That why innovate? Why change? Like we don't, all ideas, all suggestions brushed to the side, and it was very disheartening. And so I kind of went on a warpath to become the person I wish I had at that phase of my life. And so, long story short, I still have Friends with Benefits, the insurance agency. I have the marketing agency, Good Vibe Squad, as well. But then, I've joined the Better Agency team to essentially create that tool for insurance agents. And so that's been the goal, and it's kind of cool to see it really come full circle. I'm very grateful for that, for the opportunity to become that for the industry, and create that for the industry. And so, that's where I'm at, man. I'm just figuring it out day to day at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, because you've had your hands in a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm not altogether different as far as that goes, just different stuff that my hands are in. It's how do you find the balance between the agency, the marketing, and Better Agency?
Well, to be fully transparent, the agency takes the brunt of the hit. And the reason for that, a lot of people, it's interesting because there's always imposter syndrome, and I'm very transparent about this. No matter what you do, there's always a feeling, at least for me and a lot of people I work with, there's this feeling of like, it's not enough. It's not, I need to keep going. I need to be in my best form in everything I do. And it's, and there's a sense of, if you're not doing that, you're a fraud, you're fake, you're whatever. And it's interesting because, I got 24 hours in a day, and I work most days from 7 a.m. to about 10 p.m. And that is, and that's, I do that 6-7 days a week. And so obviously that's quite consuming. That's every waking hour almost, minus showers and food. And so I've just kind of recognized that this is a phase of my life that I need to stay dedicated. I almost attribute it to spending a year on the International Space Station is the best way from a perspective that I like to look at it. I'm on a mission. This is what I'm doing. I'm in space. There's no going back. I'm not on Earth. There's no excuses. I can't go back. I'm here. I need to complete the mission. That's kind of the way I look at it to simplify it for myself. Otherwise, it'd be very easy to fall prey. And I do I'm not perfect. I fall prey to distractions from time to time. But it's like, there's a lot we've set out to accomplish, and we need to stay focused. Right. And so I think balance is a thing that doesn't exist in human form. I think it's about prioritization and it's about recognizing what you can do. So like, for instance, for me, the insurance agency, I've kind of halted a lot of my involvement in that. I mean, I'd still do some management of it. And one of the things that I've wanted to do in 2021 is really invest in a few producers and making sure that they're set up for success. But that was the one thing that took the hit, because in a smaller agency, obviously growth is, the insurance game, it's a long play. It's not a short play. Well, when you're doing marketing, and you have to prioritize, I could flip a HO4 policy and get $30, or I could flip a small commercial, or I could flip a package. And granted, I'm actually pretty good at getting preferred business to round out the account. But even with that, let's say I get a 4,000 premium household or 5,000 premium household for personal lines, because that's what we specialize in. And what is that, $750? I don't do that.
You need a multiple of that to be able to replace the income on the marketing side.
Right. And so I've just kind of had to make a decision. Where do I go? I can't do both 100%. And so the insurance agency is kind of coasted for a while. And so I allocate most of my days to, honestly, at this point, better agency. I'd say about 2/3 of my days. I spend about 8 hours a day on better agency, and I spend about 4 hours a day on Good Vibe Squad.
That's cool. I mean, at least you know where your time's being spent, and it's intentional. Half the problem with people is they don't intentionally plan their time.
Well, the interesting thing, and this is actually, I agree with you. I think human capital management is one of the grossest misallocations of a business owner. This is something I've had to learn the hard way, right? Just from doing it wrong and having mentors and learning and
that's followed closely by capital management.
100%. So the interesting part was I just did an audit of my weeks, and I was spending between 30 to 40 hours a week in meetings. And I was like, dude, this is
a lot of meetings.
It's a lot of meetings. And there's the argument to be made that they're all beneficial. I think that, and that's the crux, because as a business owner, we go, well, I need to meet with this person. And you're not probably wrong. But is that the utmost priority? If you could take, because we kind of view time from this perception like there's more, I'll keep working, I'll grind, I'll do this. And it's like, well, no, there's a finite amount of time. And it's like, if you can realize, like, if you can look at time like every day's $100 bill, how am I going to spend the $100? It kind of changes the way you frame that, right? Because it's like, if I got $100, I can't spend 150. I got 100. And so I look at that now and I'm like, no, I don't have the money time to be able to spend this meeting. Like I'm very more budget conscious about my time. And so like I cut out last week or the week before, I cut out like 8 hours a week of meetings, which might not sound like a ton to some people, but that bought me back 2 deep work sessions where I can really drive the needle on some projects. And so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, no, man, I think that's true for any of us that have people who want your time. Right. And for me, it's a little more complicated because I have 4 kids and a wife when I go home that want a piece of that action. And I've got everything that I'm dealing with the agency. We have the podcast. I've got Killing Commercial. And I mean, if I look at what the biggest time suck is for me, it's not the agency. It's not really the podcast, because that stuff is all completely intentionally planned, and it'll never be my family, because that gets the first block of my time.
Right. I was gonna say
Killing Commercial, man. Yeah. Killing Commercial is the number one time suck for me. And it's not the actual execution or interacting with the people who are already in there. It's the fact that I need to now, almost a year into this, create a different process for the funnel, right? I need to do a little better job, or a lot better job, of making sure that if somebody gets to me on the phone, that they should be getting to me on the phone. I have a lot of tire kickers, and it doesn't make them bad people. I'm also not really giving away every ounce of information about what I'm doing on the website, because I do want to talk to people. But now I'm at a point where I don't need to.
It's one of those things where if you're sold out at $100, you need to charge $120. This is actually something our CFO told us. He's like, if you guys don't have time to fulfill all the people coming to the agency, you need to raise prices. You should never be at max capacity, because if you're at max capacity, it means you're not charging enough. And I was like, because if you think about it, if you work 80% of the time and you charge 20% more, you're making the same amount as if you worked 100% of the time and charged 20% less. It's like, right. Well, shoot, that's just good. That's just good balance of time and money. That actually makes sense. I never really thought of it like that.
Yeah, that's something that I tell people when I'm talking about Killing Commercial. You have to identify how much you work for per hour and what you're willing to work for per hour. For people that are going out and spending hours and hours on a small commercial piece of business that's only going to give them a couple $100, $300, $400 in revenue, but they've spent 5 or 6 hours on it. Let's just say they write $300 worth of revenue, and it took them 6 hours of going back and forth, answering questions, issuing certificates, preparing applications, all that stuff. They're working for $50 an hour.
Yeah.
You should never work for $50 an hour in this.
Well, and that's revenue. Never. That's just counting time. Now you have to take that $300 you made and account that against the expenses, the monetary expenses, to be able to create the opportunity.
Yeah, agreed. It's nuts. And I don't think because time is difficult to quantify monetarily, the only way you can do that is associate an hourly rate to it. And you have to determine what you're comfortable working for. If you're not comfortable working for the hourly rate that you're currently bringing in, then you're right. You either need to charge more or you need to charge the same and work less hours. But that's the only way you course correct that. Or you do both and you're really scoring big.
Right. 100%. No, I agree with that. And it was actually a really interesting thing I observed too, because I've had a lot of people. One of the best ways I bought my time back was I started charging $500 an hour for my time, 2 hour minimum. And it's amazing how many people just want to call, just want to talk, just want a freebie. It's like the same people that, and I know this is a generalization, so take this with a grain of salt, but oftentimes it's like the same mindset of the people that it's like, dude, if you're going to Costco trying to get free samples, just buy a slice of pizza and leave, dude. Like in the hour it's going to take you to be fed off of free samples, you could be full and satisfied with real food, and you could be doing something else with your time.
Dude, you can get the quarter-pound hot dog and a large drink for $1.99 every single time. I think the exact same thing, especially going in there on the weekend.
Yeah,
like you're going to be stuck in there. Plus, that doesn't even count the amount of negative capital you're generating by incremental purchases that you didn't even go in there to get. Right?
There are no hot dogs.
Here's the real lesson here. If you're hungry, don't go to Costco. Go to a place that's designed to serve you food. That's where they get you.
There are no better hot dogs than the hot dog at Black Diamond served on the Texas toast.
I am not sure that they even offer that anymore. To be
honest, doesn't matter. But
where is that? Is that a Florida thing?
It's in
the middle of nowhere. It's this golf course that remembers that is up like an hour and a half north of Tampa. They just have a phenomenal hot dog. Way better.
I need you guys to call and verify if that still exists, and I need to fly out. This sounds fantastic.
Oh, no. Well, listen, the golf course itself is amazing. It's built on an old rock quarry. So what's weird is you play like the first 10 or 11 holes, and it's like you look like normal course, Florida with a little bit of undulation. But then when you cross over to where the quarry holes are, I'll send you some pictures, man. Yeah, you think you've been teleported to like Oregon or somewhere in the Carolinas or wherever they have a lot of rock.
The crazy part is the pictures don't do it any justice. Like it's way different when you see it in person. But anyways, back to
pretty crazy.
Yeah. Dude, I could talk about we could talk about food for like that's one of my favorite parts of life now. It's like, dude, we could derail this entire podcast and talk about hot dogs for an hour.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But I experienced some of the same thing too. And I'm overly generous to a fault with my time most of the time. Like if somebody's got a question, I naturally want to help people. And so I do recognize that as being a flaw. What I started looking for was the tell. Right? Like I don't play poker, but I understand the concept and the psychology behind it to a certain degree. The reason why I don't play poker is because the only time I've ever played poker in my life, I did like 2 or 3 times at the dog track over by the Gandy Bridge in St. Pete. And I realized literally that when I won, I was taking somebody's money that was their meal money. Like the people that were in there were playing poker to try and make more money so that they can afford to pay their electric bill or buy groceries or whatever else. And I don't have strategy. Like, so I would go in and fold 16 hands in a row. And then I would slow play the hand that I was on and then gradually put money in the pot. And these people are going all in. And I also didn't realize that it was frowned upon to talk to the other people you're playing against. But like a guy was going all in. I'm like, bro, I folded 16 hands in a row. Save your money, man. Please don't go. I'm going to take your money from you. And I had like a full house with aces high or something like that. And it was the only decent hand I had the whole night. But I won because these people thought I was bluffing. You don't bluff by folding 16 hands in a row.
That's gotta feel like a punch to the throat to lose to the voice of reason after you just went all in on your electric bill.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's crazy. But so I look for the tell, and for me, the tell is you get done with that call, right, and that person says, "Hey, I think I'm going to sign up. I just got to sell one more case, or I'm just waiting for this policy to fund, or whatever else." And then I'll have the money to come in. I would almost rather them just say, I want to take an hour of your time. I want to take 30 minutes of your time. I have no intention of ever signing up for your program. So please, if you're willing to donate it to me, donate it to me. Please, what I'm saying is don't insult me. You know, don't insult my intelligence. You have no intention of coming in.
I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Well, that's actually something that I think one thing that and this might be a way for you to bridge that gap, because I understand you're not a low ticket offer, and you shouldn't be. You have too high value. You have too much value to provide to people. And that's the interesting part, because I view you as a marketer. In a way, your goal is to help people increase revenue, and then so in that we have the same goal. And so in a way, you're marketing. You're not necessarily digital marketing, even though you have experience and wisdom and knowledge in that. But you're one and the same as far as the end result, right? And so the interesting thing is, what I've learned in marketing is you can usually charge as a marketer in relation to what you provide. So the higher the ticket, the results. And I've seen some of the cases of people that are in your program, $300,000 work comp things, and it's like, dude, when you can help people alley-oop that stuff, you can charge a lot, and it's justified, right? And so one thing that being a high ticket program that might help bridge that gap is if you do charge like $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour, or something like that, but you tell people, hey, listen, if you're serious about, you got to sell a few more policies to get in, I'll credit that, whatever that hour or two is, towards your admission fee.
That's exactly where my head is right now. Exactly.
Yeah. And that way, if they're a tire kicker, then it costs them $1,000. And if they're serious, it's just part of the program.
Agreed. So listen, you guys are getting ready to ramp up commercial for Better Agency. I know that there's been a lot of sort of like rumbling about it, that it's coming. Nick was here for the weekend, and we recorded a boot camp that we're going to distribute out to the people that are in Better Agency and even prospects, to talk about ways to sell commercial insurance and all of that. Talk a little bit, or speak a little bit about that, if you don't mind. And then also, I'm going to sort of make an appeal to some of our audience out there that are commercial agencies that might be willing to give you a little, after we just complained about people not charging enough for their time. We're going to ask some people to give their time to you.
Well, and that's true. I always have, and this is something I feel we can connect on. I always have a way. I'll always monetize somehow. And in this regard, it's in innovation and ingenuity. Yeah. So with Better Agency, we will take the commercial space. That's a commitment we've made. And the reason for that, there's a few sectors that we're going to crush. Bilingual is one, because I feel, let me actually take a step back and communicate this. So our goal is to help serve what I would consider the most underserved audiences in the insurance sector. Everybody competes over the PNCs, right? They got the raters, they got the AMSs, they got all these functionalities. Now, granted, we could debate how the quality of those services, but your average mom and pop PNC, the only commercial they really do is BOPs, maybe commercial auto here and there, that kind of thing, where it's mostly personal lines. I mean, my agency would fit into that box, right? Most of those agencies, they're served. Now, not the best, and we'll dominate that too, but they're served. The people that aren't really served are the Spanish-speaking audiences. Nobody cares, which is sad. Like, it really is sad. Nobody has really dove into that. And so that's one thing that we're going to absolutely dominate in the upcoming months. Another thing is commercial. Every time I talk to commercial agents, there is some that are served to the same level as personal lines. As I said, small market stuff, the BOPs, the main street stuff, right? But the moment you start talking about anybody who does anytime the accounting gets wonky and the downloads don't work and that kind of stuff, commercial is just, vendors just say, nah, it's too hard, we don't want to do it. It's like, well, anything great was because somebody took the challenge of too hard on, right? I mean, it's like, Tesla didn't make an electric car by taking the low road. It's like, look at anything innovative. It's like, well, they took the high road. And
Elon Musk invented a rocket that has the boosters literally land on a dime on a floating barge in the middle of the ocean. That joker didn't just say, not only am I going to take on something that's too hard, but I'm going to give you the double middle finger while I'm doing it.
Yeah, no. And that's kind of the approach that we want to take. I mean, in a way, we kind of bet everything on black, and we try to do it as we try to make every punch count, but we also put a lot of weight behind our punches. And so the way that we look at commercial is it's like, and it's interesting because I'm not a commercial agent, right? Like I've done some commercial, very light. It's just not something I've ever found terribly fun. Mainly because I've always felt that if you're doing commercial, you need to do commercial. And I never wanted to be a dabbler. I'm good at personal lines. And it's like, well, would I still be great at personal lines if I start to dabble in commercial? I'd probably suck at both, right? And
you'd end up abandoning personal lines because you chase the money. I mean, that's the deal. I don't go after commercial because I enjoy commercial. I go after commercial because I smell the blood and I enjoy the adrenaline rush and all that goes into it when you close that massive account.
I appreciate that about you. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very addictive, right? I mean, that's just the truth. I'm not going to get nearly as excited about making $50 as I am making $50,000.
Sure. Well, and that's the intelligent way to go about it. But let's be honest. There's plenty of agents that don't want to let go, and they try to hold on to the personal while holding onto the commercial. And it's like the weight of all of that on you at the same time being pulled those two ways. It's very difficult. And it's like I feel, and this is a feeling, right? I haven't walked the path, but I've observed enough people doing it. If you're trying to bridge into commercial and you haven't done it before, you have to almost walk away from everything you've known, and you have to become that. You have to really dive in wholeheartedly to commercial and either delegate the personal to somebody else or let it go. And that was, and to be honest, it was a journey I never walked and never wanted to. And I looked at the divide and realized I'm not willing to bridge the gap. I didn't think it was one that I couldn't make, but there was an element where it's like, do I have the time to become masterful at this? Probably not. Well, let's just hold on to what we got then, right? Now, granted, I'm kind of a unique case because the agency is not everything I'm doing. But in that instance, I felt like it was important for me to draw a line in the sand and really identify who I was and what my strengths were. And the reason I'm saying that, though, is I'm on a warpath right now to connect with what I would consider the best commercial producers there are. Because, I look at you, David. I mean, my long play, I don't plan to do this immediately. I don't plan to do this in the short future. But you will leave Hubstaff one day.
You got to catch me before I sell my agency, man.
Fair enough.
Your long play may not be short enough.
It's a race to the finish line then. But I look at that. I know obviously you've been very intentional about the systems and everything you've created. And so my goal is working towards that. I'm not going to solve that in the next 3 months, right? You're a very unique situation. But I do plan on figuring out, okay, well, how do we solve the problems for 80-90% of these commercial agents, right? A lot of the problems that haven't been well addressed, and this is what I've identified up to this point. I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty I don't have, but it's essentially proper communication and support through automation of the communication, because commercial is a vastly different experience than personal, right? So that's one. Another one is people don't feel that on like manual accounts that it's really supported well. Is what I've observed. And so that's one I really want to hit home on and make sure that managing commercial accounts is really streamlined and it's very simple for an agency. Now, granted, I'm going off of feedback of commercial agents based on experience. They're kind of, from what I've observed, commercial agents are almost ghetto rigging the tools that they have to meet the needs that they have, right? Because they're almost like they're having to crutch the weapons in their agency for commercial because nobody really came out and said, let me just craft the right tool for you. Right. And so that's kind of, and I'm figuring out what that is. Like there's an element there where I don't 100% have the answers, but I do have the questions and I will find the answers. And so I'm kind of on a warpath to find people like you that have committed their lives to commercial and solving those problems on a deep level.
Here's what I hear. There's a couple of things, and I'll be interested in your response to some of this. Number one, the knock that I hear from people when I talk about Better Agency is, well, they don't have commercial yet. They don't have a full-blown commercial program or any of the automations or any of this or any of that, which my response to that is, okay, and your point, they're going after the lion's share of the market first, right? They need to go where the most opportunity is. And that's not on commercial line shops. That's on Main Street agencies that have little to no systems in place that need an option that they can just open up, plug in, and with a little bit of effort and training, be able to execute on. And that's the same conversation I have when people ask me all the time, because it's not a secret. We have HubSpot in the agency.
Right.
I can't tell you that if I had HubSpot and Better Agency sitting next to each other at the same time right now, and I didn't have anything, that I would make the same decision. I was painted into a corner to get HubSpot. I got it long before I needed it. It was something that I wanted, but we bought it for a very specific reason, which was a huge referral partnership that ended up going south because the guy pulled the rug out from under us at the last minute. So I had a decision to make. I either double down,
right,
and I just make it into whatever I can possibly make it into and try and get my money back, or I just sit here and pay them every month and not use it, but I'm under contract. So we just chose to double down and start developing it. And, I bled out quite a little bit of cash to be able to do that. But I think that people in our industry and, shiny object syndrome, it comes up at least once every episode that we have.
Yeah.
But they want to go from, they don't want, it's like the fat guy with a bag of Lay's laying on his chest watching TV all day on the couch is going to get up and go run a marathon next weekend, right? You're not going to do that. There's a process you have to go through. You have to train. You have to walk. You have to start with a 5K, then a 10K, then a half marathon, and you have to dedicate all that. You go out and make a decision that you're going to buy a CRM. I hate to rain on your parade, but Salesforce, Infusionsoft, HubSpot, Zoho, any of them do nothing. They do nothing when you buy them. You're paying to have that product. That's
right.
it. You have to put the work in yourself to make it do what you want to do,
or
you have to hire somebody. And the void that Better Agency fills, at least what I tell people, I don't know if I'm telling them the truth or not. I guess this is the moment of truth. Yeah. But I tell them, this is something that you can use right now. This is and I don't want to brand it as a starter kit because it's not, but it's a natural migration if you have nothing to move to a product that doesn't require a bunch of custom development, that has the ability to have that maybe down the road, but you don't have to have that right now. And then go put that in place, use it, make sure it's something that you need, regardless of what that system is. Make sure it's something you need, and then grow with it from there. I can tell you this. If I had the opportunity to sit between Better Agency and HubSpot, and my decision is made based off of where I'm going to get the most input and the most ability to craft what that ultimate solution looks like, specific to my industry, Better Agency wins 10 out of 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then this is the interesting part, because you're mostly right, you're partially wrong, and I'll expand on the wrong part just to make sure I clarify that. But that's the difference is you have, if I recall correctly, you have somebody that you pay monthly, or you have paid monthly for quite, and not a small sum, but mind you, for quite some time, right?
No, he's here. Yeah, no, he's a lifer.
Yeah, so you've had to hire a legitimate employee just for HubSpot to help you build that out, and that's and part of our mission was like. So let's to take it back, right? I mean, it's kind of altruistic in a way because we really wanted to like. There's no surprise that there's a lot of compression on the insurance space right now, right? A lot of change, volatility, a lot of weirdness happening. Insurance agents are not going to be able to stay in business if they also have to become computer programmers just to be able to create solutions to manage their agency. Like, that is not a sustainable model. And let's also take into account. They pretty much have to get what I would consider the hard knock equivalent of a bachelor's degree in technology just to be able to learn enough to be able to do it. And then you have to do it. And to learn that requires you to learn how to build funnels, to learn how to websites, landing pages, copywriting, marketing. I mean, dude, the amount of knowledge, you have to become me and you have to become you to be able to do that well. Mm-hmm. Bro, people ain't becoming either one of us anytime soon because they're trying to sell insurance. And
it goes back to what we said about know what you're willing to work for an hour, right? And the difference is the opportunity cost. You can either take the 6 or 7 years that it's going to take you to watch enough YouTube videos, attend enough webinars, travel to enough seminars, and do all of that. Or you can just choose to hire somebody and be cash flow positive on that investment much, much faster. And more importantly, keep your eye on what your real responsibility is as an agency principal.
Yeah. And so, you know, the real people always try to compare us to people. That's like, who's your competitor? In my opinion, and this is probably abstract to a lot of people, you know, people ask, are you competing with Agency Zoom? Are you competing with AMSs? In my opinion, no. I'm competing with HubSpot consultants. I'm competing with Salesforce consultants because I feel we've failed you if you need one. Now, you've been doing this for years, so it's like you're kind of a unicorn in that case. But if somebody that's an insurance agency owner feels that they want to walk the path of Infusionsoft or HubSpot and they want to start from scratch now, I've failed them, right? Because I want to create something that's so turnkey, so ready to use that they don't have to learn any of that stuff, that they could just utilize it and go back to their agency and work the way it's supposed to be. That's really our mission, right? And so in that, we're really trying to make it so an agency can run as an agency and have the tools they need to be successful and efficient and profitable and scalable without having to learn any of that, right? And so here's where you're wrong. Commercial actually is functionality that exists in Better Agency today. Now, is it everything people want? No. And depending on who you ask, you'll get a different answer because the needs are different, right? And so the one thing that's cool about Better Agency, in my opinion, is, you know, a lot of these tools, which I didn't know until recently, like last few months, but you know, your AMSs and your platforms, they usually release 3 to 1, you know, quarterly to annually, right? So you're looking anywhere from 3 to 12 months that they'll have release cycles. Better Agency is not playing that game. We have releases every 2 weeks. We got at least 2 releases every month. And the reason for that is we release things to get them in the user's hands. And it's not always perfect. It's actually not perfect most of the time, like V1, right? But the thing is, people make a request and we work as hard as we can to fulfill those requests. And then we leverage the user feedback. We're very integrated with our users to go, okay, well, here's what you asked for. What do you think? And they're like, hey, I like it. It's a great start, but I want X, Y, Z. Perfect. You know, it's like, okay, let me go back. Let me work on that. I'm going to create that. And so the evolution of the product is nonstop. And so in that capacity, you know, that's why I'm on a warpath to work with commercial producers, because it's like, you know, this is one of the things I hear is like people go, well, you know, the things don't exist. Perfect. Work with me. I'll create it. I'll use your feedback. I'll work with you and I'll give you what you want. And so through that process, I'm very confident that, you know, by asking the right questions and working with the right people, we'll create the solution. And, you know, we do have a lot of commercial functionality now. It's not all there. But we'll always be evolving. And so through that, you know, for the commercial agents that are out there that want the tools, that don't want to have to hire a HubSpot consultant, because I can imagine, I mean, it hasn't been cheap by any measure for you.
No, we're probably moving close to $200,000 at this point.
And it's probably still, even though you had somebody do it for you, I'm sure you've had to spend a ton of time involved in that process.
You know who benefits from my HubSpot consultant that I use?
Killing Commercial?
No, basically everybody else who comes after me that uses, they're learning, you know, and look, I love Dave to death. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about him. It's just that he's learning the insurance industry, like the old adage, he's learning to shave on my face.
Yeah. Sure. So shave on my face. That's great. I like that.
But that's the deal. Well, Kyle wouldn't understand that as a woodsman, but anyhow,
absolutely not.
But that's the deal. So he's become more and more efficient. Where if somebody else comes in because this is a guy who understands HubSpot. Thankfully, I understand enough about HubSpot in automation that I can be a little bit of a translator, but Now that we've worked together as long as we have, I can just say, I need it to do this. And I know how that communication works.
Right.
It's much easier. Before, those calls would be 2 hours long for a very basic workflow, just explaining not just what I needed it to do, but specifically why I needed it to do that.
It sounds like you at the beginning that it was probably similar to cutting your teeth on crushed glass, like that.
You had to be conditioned.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you're a warrior, so I'm sure that you looked at that and you were like, "This is the path I walk," right? And I would rather, it's kind of like the whole first generation immigrant thing. Like I view us like the first generation immigrants in a way of like we have to like we're cutting the path down for those after us, right? And so that's kind of just the fervor we work with. One of the things that I think, and you mentioned it, and I think it's been really cool, and one of my favorite parts about Better Agency has been the success stories about people literally just put their contacts, whether they're prospects or clients or whatever, they let the campaigns and the functionality happen, whether it's personal or commercial. This is one of my favorite things is people go, the copy in these sequences is like bar none. Like it's ninja level copy. And I've never had so many people say yes to wanting to buy insurance. Or, we get people that are like, I got a 5-star request, or I got a 5-star Google review from a claims sequence that I've never gotten a review for a claim before. Like those are like the things like to me, I'm like, yes. It's like, and a lot of people, it's one thing to have HubSpot or Infusionsoft or whatever. And this is the thing people don't know. It's like, that's just a tool. But what are you putting into it? Right? Like that's the car and you need good gas. If you just put water into a Corvette, it doesn't run well, right? Like it won't run at all. HubSpot's the same. Like, and luckily you have a lot of market familiarity, but a lot of people are not copywriters. They don't understand what resonates with a buyer to make them want to, to buy. And I think it's important to mention for you, because you are kind of a unicorn in that you have a lot of marketing experience that you don't really speak about. Right. And so that gives you the ability to frame your offer and what you have to say in a way that would be enticing to a consumer. Most agencies don't have that experience or knowledge. Right. And so, they get HubSpot and they're like, okay, well, I wanted to talk about this, or they get Infusionsoft and they're like, okay, make some emails about this. And it's like, dude, nobody's connecting with that, right? Like conversion's an important metric. And so that's the thing about Better Agency that I think is really exciting is everything we do, every sequence, every function, every feature, we look at it from the perspective of how can we use this to increase agency revenue, right? And that's why we're also not the cheapest product. We're not the most expensive either, but it's like, we don't compete on price. We're really competing on value. We live by the same things that we try that good insurance agents should live by, right? It's like, if you're just bottom barrel competing on price, that's not a good model. And we don't believe in that either. So it's like, we are giving you the handcrafted copy. Every campaign is unique, and that's the thing. Every cross-sell campaign is unique. The way you sell an umbrella policy is different than the way you sell a flood policy, is different than the way you sell a life insurance policy. And so we literally go through and craft all copy and sequences to be very specific to the purpose of whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it's a new policy, whether it's a Google review, whether it's a referral. Everything is framed from the perspective of that specific initiative and how we can maximize the conversion of that objective. And so that is something that I'm actually working on right now for commercial is a lot of the cross-sell stuff. Which is unique about commercials. A lot of the agents I talk to, they say, well, I get everything up front. And it's like, that's nice, man. I know plenty of agents that wish they could say that, and so we're not only working on the copy for commercial, but also the functionality and making sure that we're going to create a separate pipeline structure and everything for commercial as well, because it is a different workflow. So I'm excited for that. But, it's like, I'm really excited to start connecting with commercial agents. And like literally, in the next few months, I'm just going to be flying out to offices, shadowing people, acting like I'm their apprentice so I can observe every action they do. I want to watch how they pee. I want to watch how they treat their staff. I want to watch everything about them so I can really bake that into the product,
In the parking lot with one leg up.
Yeah. So, that's really where my heart's at now, man, is really becoming one with heavy commercial agencies so that we can solve their problems. Because the way I view it is if I can solve the person who's doing 85% commercial, the person who's doing 30% commercial will be a laydown, right? Like that's a no-brainer at that point. Because we don't just want to help support the 30% commercial. If that's what you want to do, I want to make it as frictionless as possible for you to go from 30% commercial to 75% commercial or 80% commercial. Like if that's where your heart's at, I want to make that an easy transition.
I think there's something, that needs to be addressed though, in I want you to address it.
Okay.
But one of the biggest issues that I see with agency principals, there's a couple things, but one of my biggest soapboxes that I get on right now is they don't view technology correctly. They view technology as an expense as opposed to an investment. Sure. And an investment you get a return on, an expense goes away. You don't get any kind of a return on that. And so because of that, because they have the wrong viewpoint, if they actually stretch outside of their comfort zone and they buy that, they pay that expense for a product to come in, their expectation is that product is a magic bullet and they don't have to do anything at all. It should work to do everything that they think that it should. And I hear this a lot, and I stick up for Chris Langill from Advisor Evolved quite a bit.
Amazing.
When this happens.
Amazing solution.
Yeah, because you'll hear agency principals bitching and moaning that it's $150 a month for him to manage their website. And they're like, it's
not comes with a lot of bells and whistles too that they don't speak about,
Right. Well,
but even when we talk to him, I'm like, that is nothing to do all of the stuff. I mean,
I've had multiple conversations with him where I told him, I was like, bro, raise your prices, man. You're not charging enough.
Yeah. And it goes back to this. Agents, we want to think we understand. We want to think we know. My first question whenever I see, because I will jump on that thread every time I see it. And I'll just ask him, I'm sorry, how many WordPress sites have you ever constructed from the ground up and had to maintain over the course of the year? Are you familiar with how often updates to plugins are released and the fact that you could have a conflict with a released plugin and an existing plugin that crashes your whole site?
Yeah, and that's the thing.
You're paying him to maintain your site. You're paying him to make sure that your site is up and running all the time. How many times has your site been down in the last year? Never? Mm-hmm. Oh, my bad. Is that not worth $150 to you? Don't, in the analogy that I use every single time is this. I could bring a brand new Lamborghini and put it in your driveway. But if I don't put gas in the tank, you ain't doing anything with it.
Sure.
And it's the same thing. People don't understand. We have an awesome framework for a website, but content strategy? You mean we have to blog? We have to do videos? We have to put relevant information in there? We have to identify keywords and anchor text and have internal and external links and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I could go on and on about all the things you need to do yourself to drive traffic to your site. But people think that just because you buy a piece of technology that it's not some assembly required, as we're getting ready to go into Christmas. And I know that Better Agency out of the box does a lot, but I can't believe that it's as simple as, somebody goes on, they log in, they push one button and everything's there.
No,
that has to be right even going into it.
The only, and this is actually the biggest hurdle we've observed. I'm very transparent about this stuff, is the importing process. That's it. We lose people on the import. And that's the sucky part, because people and we have to kind of overcompensate for the inadequacies of the other systems, is because the export from other systems is shit poor. And on top of that, it compounds because agencies do not keep very good what we call data hygiene. And so you have all this garbage data that came out of whatever other system and you're trying to leverage it. That's been our biggest hurdle, because once contacts get in, dude, the amount of people, and I've actually had to kind of rephrase how I tell people to onboard. It's like, I want you to put your entire book of business in there. But like, even if you could just taste the nectar, you're going to want the whole fruit. I tell people, just put 100 people in there. If you're overwhelmed, which is actually rather easy, because Better Agency from a function standpoint was built to make it so it's not built for the people that want to customize everything and, web development. No, dude, like, stop. You're an insurance agent. Stop. Like we want to serve the people that just want to sell insurance, do their thing, go home to their family, right? And so in that capacity, it is very turnkey. The only problem is people get overwhelmed in the import because they're looking at all these Excel spreadsheets or whatever, right, coming from their AMS or other systems, and they're like, dude, I don't know what to do. So we actually help quite a bit in that process. And we, our team, we've helped people build Zaps and do all kinds of crazy stuff because it's like we want people to have that good experience. But we have we had Alicia Kavanaugh actually. She put in it was like 40 contacts recently, 50 contacts, and her producer made like 5 sales just like first week. I had another guy, Derek. He had like 46 contacts that he did for a cross-sell life campaign just right out of the box. I think he sold like 6 or 7 life policies like first week. And it's like those are the stories that's like, that's stupid. Yeah, you've been sitting on that data for how long? And it took 1 week for Better Agency to just come on, man.
And again, let's go back. Let's step back. Dude sold 6 life policies. What's the revenue attached to that? And how long did it take in working to get that data cleaned up enough to get it imported to where it would actually work? Probably not that long. I'm fairly certain that Derek, who sold 6 life policies, got a great return on his investment of getting that stuff uploaded in there.
Well, that's a no-brainer. And this is the interesting part, because I agree with you. Agents don't view it as what's this going to make me? They go, what's it cost, right? Which is a poverty mindset is kind of what I've learned. It's not poverty, scarcity mindset is the proper term. But that's something I've even had to overcome, right? Like that's been one of the biggest shifts in my ability to be successful. It has been the shift in what does this make me, or from what does this cost me to what does this make me? I can give a shit what something costs now, unless I can't afford it, if it's going to make me more money, right? And so I think that that's a big lesson for people listening to this podcast is you really need to shift away from that. When people say scarcity and abundance, really, to me, the biggest like tangible recognition of the shift from scarcity to abundance is, instead of, as a business owner, instead of going, what does this cost me? Going, what is this going to make me? That's abundance. Abundance is never about protecting what little you have, right? Even if that little amount is a lot, if you're constantly guarding and your arms are like this, you can't reach out for more, right? And so abundance is about going, no, I have this and there's plenty more. I'm going to get more, right? And so, what is this going to make me? I think that's a great perspective. But to the agent's defense, though, David, and I think this is an important distinction, and I want to call this out because I think agents have been let down for a long time. Agents have not been given a lot of solutions that do generate a return. And that's a big problem is, you look at a lot of these tools and they're trackers and they're, it's like they might have cute dashboards or whatever, but it's like, dude, none of that was designed to actually drive revenue up. It was designed to help you recognize revenue you might already be making. But best case scenario, it's just a blood pressure monitor for your agency. It's not actually improving the health of it. And so that's one of those things where I'm like, I don't want to be the blood pressure monitor for an agency. I want to be the vitamins that go straight to the, the IV vitamins straight to the vein. Like I want to improve the quality of your life. I want to improve the health of your agency and drive revenue. And so I think that is something that agents have to familiarize with. And I don't think we'll be alone in that. There's other tools out there that are trying to do that. Tarmac is a good example. Advisory Evolve's a good example. There are some newer companies that are like, how can I help you increase the money you're making? Right. And so I think that will help agents be a little bit less conservative with how they approach technology. But at the same time, I agree with you. Agents do have to be willing to shed past experiences of, vendors that didn't serve them and collaborate towards revenue. I think that they need to be willing to take a risk and go, what will this make me? And look at it differently. But I also understand why they felt that way, because they haven't been served up to now for the most part.
It's interesting. I spent the weekend with Nick working on some things. I don't want to overstep my bounds and say anything that I'm not supposed to say. So I'm trying to be very careful here, but
it's going to be fire. I'm excited for that. And thank you for your time, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I guess my question is this: if an agency out there is not doing anything at all right now, and they're doing something, but maybe not put a bunch of effort into it, and they seriously want to consider making a move to Better Agency, you and I both know that data's got to be in good shape to get it to work the way that it's supposed to be. What are the steps that an agency can be taking right now to try and correct some of that? Or is there a solution coming down the road where there will be some sort of a done for you type service available to them?
To be honest, man, it already kind of exists. Like our support team, we're quite familiar with all the AMSs that exist. And so like our support team is pretty well trained at this point. Cause like we don't, a lot of technology goes, we'll figure it out and let us know when you have it right. Like, that's the beauty of our experience is Will, the CEO, he was the #1 certified partner at Infusionsoft for insurance. Like that required a lot because Infusionsoft's not an easy platform. So he came to it with a lot of that experience. And John, who is like, he helps a lot in our support, amazing account manager. He worked with Will in a lot of the fulfillment of Infusionsoft buildouts. So the way that you talk about your guy from HubSpot, that's kind of what John is. And so John is very familiar at this point with AMSs. So what I would say to people that are looking at going, I don't know what to do. My data might be poor or whatever. It's like, yeah, that might be true. Are you going to wait forever for like, you know what I mean? Like inaction's expensive too. Like, and so my advice would be just be two things. Be patient because you need to pay a tax for the inaction you've had up to this point, and we can't fix that 100%. So you need to understand that it's not going to be perfect, but it's better to have perfect inaction than, imperfect action than perfect inaction, right? You need to get over that. Otherwise, you'll always stay in that hole. So that's the first thing, and the second thing is be patient, but also collaborate with our team. If you take the trial and you use the 14 days. And you work with us, and we'll help you with the import process if you don't know what you're doing. If you're willing to be open to that and communicate and collaborate on that process, our support team's fantastic, dude. And the industry experience they have in build outs and stuff like this and taking data from other sources, we're very experienced at that. The other part of that from a product perspective, which is the part I manage, is we are making our import tool more like specific to the source. So if you're importing data from EasyLinks or if you're importing data from QQ or wherever the data is coming from, we're actually building a more like wizard style, like if EasyLinks, click here, boom, and then it's like very specific to that flow, right? That way you're not having to figure out and deduce what you need to do with the data. We're trying to take as much of that friction off your hands. So that will be the evolution of the product for the import component of it. But at the same time, we have the human capital in place to help you mitigate that. Like you're not alone in that. And the people and this is with anything, but a lot of the people that fail on the implementation of Better Agency, which isn't a lot of people as a whole, but a high percentage of the people that do, they waited till day 14, which is the end of the trial. They didn't reach out. They didn't collaborate with our support team. And then they go, I couldn't get it to work. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't see any support tickets. Like what happened? Like we're here. And so they don't really, there's a lack of resourcefulness. They're not really like working with us. Right. So that's the biggest thing I would say. Like, honestly, even if you have poor data, bro, it's insane how much just regular communication with your book of business helps. Dude, I've had people, we had one guy that had a family in the wrong campaign. He put him in the renewal campaign. And it was like the wrong timing, whatever, wasn't supposed to go out. And he still sold like 4 or 5 life policies off of it just because it was a touch point with a client he hadn't had in years. Like, dude, even when it's wrong, it's right. Like, just communicate with people.
We say that all the time too. We give Raphael a hard time because he'll go out and he just hammers. I mean, the dude is a machine in knocking on people, to get them to open the door. And the one thing I can say is he knows that volume cures a lot of issues, right? If he was going to go out and cold call on 4 businesses a day, he's not going to get anywhere. If he goes out and he cold calls on 24 businesses a day, there's a high likelihood he's going to get 2 or 3 actual appointments to present the value proposition to him.
You've got to supplement a lack of skill set initially with volume and just going out and hammering.
I agree with you, Kyle. I would say I would expand on that. I 100% agree with you. I would take it a step further. Just supplement everything with volume. If you even if you're great, do volume. If you're not great,
that doesn't work with my wife, man. I've tried the volume argument with my wife and it goes nowhere.
Well, if you're like Nick, he's always trying to be a lion. He's like, lions mate like 50 times a day. I'm like, okay, chill, bro. Yeah. You're lucky to do one.
Yeah.
What's I'm curious as to what's been the most rewarding thing for you. You mentioned early on that you transitioned from captive to independent and then, kind of taken this new journey and had to endure some turbulent times, as you put it. What's been the most rewarding aspect of it for you?
Bro, dude bought his first house, man.
I did buy a house. You know what's and this sounds crazy. Yes, that is cool. There's a few things. How long y'all want this podcast to go? There's a few things. The house is a big one. Because literally we were at the Plasma Center twice a week, bro. And it's weird because like I've had a few people on the journey that have private messaged me because they find out about my story and they're like, "Thank you for your donations." And I'm like, "Homie, you're welcome, but it ain't like that." Like I wasn't doing it for charity. I was doing it for the $65 for the 2 liters of blood every week. Okay. Like when you're selling a liter of blood for $30 and you look left and right and the people in the lobby sitting next to you are so poor they can't get their heroin. Like, bro, I didn't do it because I wanted to, like, so from that capacity, being at that phase of my life to being able to buy a house. Yes, that was very huge for me.
It's a huge outward symbol of what you've been able to accomplish. I don't dare make the argument that that's the number one thing that is validated what you've done, because having been not down the exact same path, but having been down that path,
you've had some struggles of your own. I mean,
I have. I've never been to the point. Maybe I should have been to the point where I actually donated plasma, because it would have probably saved me from some of the things that I had to deal with. But, I know well enough that those things are good and they're a great reward, and that's what people see. Sure. But that's not what really motivates any of us. And it's never to me, at least, the greatest validation is seeing somebody that I've worked with or someone that I've helped them do something they never thought they would be able to do and create a revenue stream that literally changes their agency, their family tree, and everybody in their agency's family tree because of something that I knew and was able to share with them, train them how to do, and then make sure that they execute it. I'll never have any better validation than that. Yeah. I'll have all kinds of nice stuff.
Yeah.
But the nice stuff doesn't make me feel good.
I agree. There's a few things. So the house is one, David. I would say from like a purely selfish standpoint, it is validation of why we've worked so hard. Because, dude, it's like, and I think we all did to a degree. We chose to walk a path most wouldn't choose to walk. I think that could be said for any of us on this call, right? We looked at something, we were like, I'm either insane or bold or probably a little bit of both, but I'm going to do this, right? And it was against probably the advice of those around us that cared about us and loved us, right? We probably did something that was to a lot of people considered a little crazy. And that's how anything great's created, right? So the house was one. Another is this thing behind me. McBeely and I just got our 2 Comma Club awards from ClickFunnels, which might sound small or cheesy to a lot of people. But one of the things that is validating to me from a full circle perspective is McBeely and I actually met through the ClickFunnels community. And that's how we forged a friendship in the ClickFunnels group. And then we became friends in a mastermind in Puerto Rico. And then we formed a business literally on the back end of that mastermind after we had just tried like doing we just had a back-to-back sale where we were like, well, let's just try merging your sales presentation with my sales presentation. We'll use my traffic and we'll see how it works. And so like literally 2 years later, we've achieved what I would consider the pinnacle of success in that community. So in that regard, it's like, okay, well, that's cool from an accolade standpoint. But realistically, what gives me the most juice at this point in my life, bro, is when I see people, and it's small stuff, man. It's like, it's stuff that most people would probably go, really? But it's like, to me, it's so effing motivating, is seeing the people that are using Better Agencies go, dude, listen to this. We had one guy that closed a $300,000 case through Better Agency, right? Nice. Like, that's insane. That's insane, dude. Name another tool that can say that. Or the guy who said he got a Google review from that was actually Michael Overstreet. He got a 5-star Google review because we asked for it, right? In our claims campaign. And by the way, that's like a lot of tools will say like, oh, well, when you make a sale, we'll try to get you a 5-star review. Yeah, that's cool. We do that at the sale. We do that at the renewal. We do that for every claim. We do that for every service request. Dude, your staff doesn't have to ask anymore. Like, you don't have to worry about that. We're doing it, right? And like to see the people be like, dude, I've never had so many 5-star reviews. I've never had 5-star reviews for claims. I've never had so many cross-sell people say, yes, I want to buy it, right? Like people are rounding out accounts, and the success stories honestly are so fulfilling for me, and it fuels me so much. And that's honestly, that's kind of my dopamine thing. Like, you know, it's like when you figure out, or when people discuss like, what's your thing? What's, you know, that's kind of like the crack for me. It's like, I want another hit. I want more. That is so validating, because it's like, I remember I was at a conference, and I won't name names, but it was Innovation 2018. By the way, that was still the struggle, because I was given Nick and Dave. This is how I actually became friends with Nick. Nick and Dave found out about the plasma center and the food bank and all that. And Nick offered me, they do the scholarships for innovation, right? And I was one of those scholarships in 18 for innovation. And I remember, dude, like I remember being so front row at every person speaking. I was getting like the driplets off of their spit, you know, just because I'm like, dude, I need to, you're doing something I need to know, right, to be successful. And so I remember, like, I took that conference very seriously, and I was in the vendor hall with one AMS, and I was talking to their CTO, and there was a few things I wanted, right? And as a marketer, I just wanted to integrate Wufoo Forms, which was what I used back then. And I just wanted to be able to integrate into my AMS at the time, first name, last name, phone number, email. And he was like, it's going to cost you a $3,000 licensing fee. You're going to have to pay for the development on both sides. And you're going to have to pay for 25 cents per contact with a minimum of 1,000 contacts per month. And I was like, if I'm paying the $3,000, is that like, does that unlock it for all agencies? He's like, no, that's just for yours. I was like, what? You know, like that was so foreign to me. And I just felt so unrepresented. Like I felt, there was something in my soul that just went on fire in that moment. And so it's like that, honestly, I come from that at this point. Like when I look at things and I see the way that Better Agency is truly making an impact on agency owners, it's like, dude, I swear to be, sorry, I don't know if we can cuss on this. I did. So I guess there's no takesies backsies. But you know, it's like, every time that I'm at the drawing board and I'm looking at the 400 plus features that we're working on right now, that I come back to that moment. I'm like, dude, I swear by my life and my love of it that I will never put another agent in a position where they feel so unrepresented. And so when I see that validation, Kyle, when I see somebody talk about a major win they have, or even a small one, dude, getting a 5-star review is like, you know, it's kind of like not that sexy anymore because it's become kind of a norm. You got all these tools that like talk about that. But it's like when you talk about it from something that you never do, like a claim, like, dude, name an agent that gets a 5-star review from a claim. They don't ask for it, so they don't get it. Right. And so like, to me, that's like, that's a normal thing now. We've created a new norm.
Now we have to get them 6-star reviews.
Yeah. I mean, I'm about that life. And so, you know, that's it, Kyle, man. It's like every day when I see in the group, somebody just talking about some new success story or some win that they had, you know, like that one, we had one guy that he put in a list of 100 auto home, no life. And in 24 hours, he got 22 people that said, yes, I'd love a quote for life insurance. 22, bro. Now, I don't know how good he is at selling, but if you gave me 22 people that said, I'd like to talk about life insurance, I'm going to be hitting that premium hard.
I'm going to close 23 of them. Like, if you give me 22, because I'm going to be getting a referral at least on one of them.
Bro.
And that's the whole thing, man. And, you know, again, it goes back to the fact you've got to have a system in place. You've got to have, you know, ways to measure this stuff, automations. It just, I don't know. We could go on for hours, but we can't. So I'm going to have you back soon enough. But listen, I really appreciate you coming on today. I know you're looking for commercial agents that you want to shadow. Tell them exactly what you're looking for and how to get a hold of you, because I want to help you make that happen sooner than later.
Yeah. So this is a call to action. If you're a commercial agent watching this, Better Agency is fully committed to you. We're fully committed to the journey of making the best solution on the market for you. I'm willing to fly out. Now, granted, this offer has to be the right offer. You got to have your shit together. You have to be on a warpath for success. You know, you really have to be committed to the process too, because we're investing resources into this. But I'm willing to fly out. I'm willing to meet with you. I want to craft the best solution that solves all your problems. Now, granted, I understand that part of that is theory, and we're not going to solve everything, and we're definitely not going to save the world all in one day. But I'm fully committed to your success. I'm fully committed to your journey. And so if you are a primarily commercial agency, ideally you do some personal lines so we can figure out the blend in the middle as well. But if you're mostly a commercial agency or you do heavy commercial, I would love to have a conversation with you and potentially even fly out to your office, be a fly on the wall, shadow you, see how you live, what a day in the life in your agency is like. And so I am looking for a handful of agents that I can actually meet with, because I want to make sure that whatever we create for commercial is with the highest level of intention and it really solves your core problems. The benefit of Better Agency is it's not like and David uses HubSpot, and so I'll pick on them a little bit. He's probably using a fraction of HubSpot's functionality because it was
maybe 20%, man, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But you're paying for 100%.
Right.
And that's the downfall. And so that's the unique part about Better Agency is if all you're using Better Agency for is a quote unquote sales tracker, it's an expensive sales tracker, no doubt. But we didn't build it to be a sales tracker. We built it to take a lot off your plate. And so in that regard, we want to make sure it has everything you need as a commercial agent, but not all the excessive fluff that is not specific to the industry. That's the thing about Better Agency is minimal clicks, maximum results, and we want to keep it that way. And so I want to work with you. I want a handful of commercial agents that I can really shadow, learn from, figure out your processes, figure out what you need, what you don't have, what the pain points are, and where you've been neglected so that we can create the ultimate tool to be able to help you succeed. We're in the trenches with you. We are so committed to your success. It's unreal. And I would love to collaborate with you. So please reach out to me. You can hit me up on Facebook, facebook.com/Preston Loves Marketing. You can email me, preston@betteragency.io. However you want to reach me, please do. And I would love to have some conversations with you so that we can work together to solve your problems.
Cool
deal, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you being patient as I was dealing with my IT issues and us being able to get this thing recorded, man. It's always cool to talk with you and really appreciate what you guys are doing and look forward to seeing, number one, who's going to step up to the plate to help you drive change in this industry.
I'm excited to see that too.
People, you can't be a back row Baptist and then expect to have the best in class solutions just presented to you. Get in the trenches with us. We need your help.
Yeah.
Preston, I hope you have a great Christmas. Enjoy your time. You said, where are you traveling? You said you're traveling tomorrow. You heading to Washington?
Tomorrow, I'm heading to Washington. Yeah, I'm gonna spend Christmas with my parents, and I'm excited because I'm gonna take that week of downtime, and I got some new write-ups that are gonna be fire. So I'm gonna take some time to really create some cool stuff.
Well, I look forward to seeing it, man. Safe travels, and we'll catch you in the new year, brother. Have a good one.
Happy holidays, guys.
Later.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.